Welcome to MK True Crime. I'm Ashley Merchant, your host today. I'm a criminal defense attorney from Atlanta, Georgia. Here's what's on the docket today. The manhunt for the Brown University shooter who killed 2 students is still underway as officials detained and then released a person of interest. We'll bring you the latest. And Hollywood legend Rob Reiner and his wife Michelle were allegedly murdered by their own son over the weekend. We'll bring you the shocking details. And former University of Michigan football coach Sharon Moore was arrested on charges of trespassing and stalking. We'll share why. I'm joined today by fellow MK True Crime contributors, Jonna Spilbor, criminal defense attorney and founding attorney at Jonna Spilbor Law, and Arthur Aidala, New York trial attorney. Let's start with the shooting at Brown University. The shooting happened inside a classroom around 4 p.m. on Saturday. 2 students were killed and 9 were injured. A person of interest was initially detained, but prosecutors got more information and luckily quickly released that person after figuring out that they had not done anything. Here's the mayor of Providence, Brett Smiley, speaking to Good Morning America on Monday about why they released that person, the initial person of interest.
It takes time to run this evidence. It takes time to process information that was collected and hard evidence that was collected. And as we continue to process that evidence, it was determined that this person of interest needed to be released, and we continue with our investigation. To be clear, we've never stopped our investigation. The Providence Police and our partners at State Police, the FBI, and others have continuously run down leads and work this case beyond the person of interest who had been detained yesterday.
So you're absolutely convinced the person of interest had nothing to do with this?
We're not saying that definitively. What we're saying is that after a review of the evidence that was gathered, it was determined that the person of interest needed to be released. But until such time as we have an individual in custody who we're confident is responsible, that we're prepared to press charges and then prosecute, we're going to continue to leave all doors open.
So as of this taping, the manhunt for a suspect continues, which I'm personally happy that the police and the prosecutors decided to actually let this man go when they realized that they weren't confident that he was the one. But Jonna, what are your thoughts about this search?
I knew you were going to be pleased by that, Ashley. I did. And I get it. And I get it. And I think I am a little bit too. But what my initial thought on this search is we are not getting off to a good start, are we? So many more questions than answers. And to begin, how is it in the year 2025, and maybe they have more than this, that there isn't recording galore of the person who went in on campus and shot up so many people on a crowded campus? And then the video that we are shown as the public apparently is of a person before the shooting occurred. And I watched it a number of times. This person, who we're assuming is a male, but I'm not 100% convinced, put a pin in that, is acting strangely. You can see him there. He's walking. Now, look, he's walking and then he stops. Why does he stop? Look across the street for people who are watching us on YouTube. There's a person there and he decides to act a little cagey, like, oh, you know what? I think I was going to go to this establishment here, whatever it is with the sign, but now I changed my mind. Oh, let me read this a little more. So is that suspicious? Yes. But why do we not have more, a better description, more video of whoever killed these 2 people and shot 9 more on a busy, busy campus?
Well, my best guess, I was thinking about that as well. And I was thinking maybe this person knows the university, because I think I read somewhere where there's 800 to 900 different camera views. And how was he possibly able to miss all of these camera views unless he knew the area? We see these movies where people are casing the joint ahead of time. He seemed to have known it. But, Arthur, what do you think about the fact that he had a mask? Did he know these victims? I mean, there's been reports that this one young girl who was shot and died, that maybe she was the target of this. I mean, what do you make of that?
That is, I don't know how to feel about this, about whether she was the target or not. In other words, does that make this tragedy better or worse? Is it better if it's just a random thing and the guy's just in there spraying people, or is it better if it's an execution? I mean, look at this young lady. Oh my God. Now she was the president of the Republican Students Council or something along those lines.
College Republicans.
Yes. I mean, it's like, it's devastating. I have a son who's in college, and the last thing as a parent that on a Saturday when your children are done, they're doing the right thing, right? They're not watching the
Yeah.
ball game. They're preparing for finals. I mean, you cannot. This young lady is in a spectacular school, right? Brown is an Ivy
Mhm.
League
Right.
spectacular school. She's doing the right thing on the Saturday before finals. She's doing her review. She's doing everything she's supposed to do, and now she's dead. And as a parent, how you wrap your brain around that is just impossible to me. I will tell you guys that I spoke to my friend, the former chief of the NYPD, John Chell, yesterday about this. And, he was surprised, to your point, Ashley, with all of these cameras
Right.
that they have not been able to
Right.
track the person, not necessarily to see the exact act, but to see they went from this camera and then they pop up on that camera and then they pick them up on the third camera and then the fifth and then the 10th and the 25th and then look, I had a client, that's how they followed her. They followed her from the street to the down into the subway, onto the subway, off the next platform. It took them 4 days, but eventually they got all the cameras and they took it right to her apartment.
Ashley,
So,
I'm sorry, Arthur, to get back to your
no,
point for a minute, do you also think it's odd that this was a Saturday? So if I'm a random killer, going back to both your points, if I'm just a random killer and I want to shoot a bunch of college students, I'm probably not going to go on campus on a Saturday
Right.
unless I'm going to go, in middle of the week, right? Middle of the day,
Right.
middle of the week. So maybe he did have some connection with the school, but you got to be some kind of genius to miss all the cameras, or you
Right.
got to be the person who installed all 900.
I
And
know.
that's really odd to
It
me.
is really odd. It is really
it's
odd.
almost like something out of Mission Impossible, and I'm not making a joke, like out of Mission Impossible, when like Tom Cruise knows where all those red beams are and he knows how to get
Right.
under them or around them, or
Mhm.
he knows how to turn them off for even
Right.
if it's for 10 seconds or pause them or freeze them or because it's just not making sense. And
But
look,
that
I
would be a
don't want
big
to
clue.
cast aspersions on the police department, up in Providence, but we are several days into this now, and the fact that they had one person of interest, and I believe the reason why they let him go is the ballistics of the
Right.
weapon they thought he possessed did not match the ballistics on the scene. I don't know if they had a lot of choice but to let him go. I don't know how altruistic they were being by letting him go. It's a little scary and sad that we don't have anybody in our sights
Yeah.
at this point.
I know. And the other gentleman who was murdered, Umer Zukov, I believe is his name. He was studying to be a brain surgeon. Apparently, he had had some brain injury when he was young, and it motivated him to want to become a brain surgeon. So it's just definitely a tragedy. And all of these kids studying for finals, getting ready to go home for the holidays. I mean, it's just awful timing. I can't help but wonder what the police are doing. The FBI hopefully is helping, but they're probably making a timeline, I would imagine. Like you said, Arthur, where was he before he actually went into this building? Where was he after? Where did he go? They're going to have to follow him, and they're going to have to see, who owned guns in this area. And obviously motive, was there any motive, or was this a random shooting? I mean, I would hope that that's what they're looking for. And I would hope that they would get some answers before these kids have to go home for break for college. I can't even imagine what their parents are going through.
Mm.
Um,
Okay.
so we've got another interesting SOT on this case where Mark Halperin, he's actually does an MK Media show called Next Up with Mark Halperin, and he heard that Ella Cook, the young lady we were talking about, that she's a Christian conservative student. Like you said, she's the president of the Young Republicans Club there on campus, but that she was actually the target of the shooting. Do we have SOT 6?
The family of Ella Cook, the Alabama young woman who was a sophomore, has been told that she was the target of what happened at Brown. I have no idea whether that's true. There's other theories about why the person did what they did, but now that we don't know who the assailant is, it's going to be harder to say.
And she's from Alabama, I believe, and was up there in at Brown University, just for college.
Hey, it's me, Megan Kelly. Before we dive into our true crime topic of the day, I want to tell you about today's sponsor. If you are wondering how you're going to survive the holiday season without gaining 10 pounds, or if you're just sick of feeling sluggish every winter, listen up. Consider Veracity. Veracity says it provides an all-natural, drug-free way to fire up your metabolism, crush cravings, regain your mental focus, and finally feel like yourself again. You've heard the GLP-1 hype, but if needles and side effects worry you, meet Metabolism Ignite, the #1 doctor-recommended GLP-1 booster and natural alternative. They say it's packed with healthy ingredients like hibiscus, green coffee bean, and magnesium, and they also say it's safe if you are already on a GLP-1 or breastfeeding. Veracity says it provides real self-care that tackles the root cause of why our metabolism fails us. So consider Veracity this holiday season. Head to veracityselfcare.com. Use the code MK for up to 45% off your order. Okay, don't forget that code MK when you check out for up to 45% off. Once again, that's veracityselfcare.com, code MK. Check it out.
I want to talk a little bit about Rob Reiner. We've got a lot to talk about with that case. So I want to talk about another tragedy that we've seen, around the holidays. Everything is tragic, but it seems a little bit more tragic this time of year. So Rob Reiner was murdered along with his wife, Michelle, and their son is in custody. Their son, Nick, he's a 32-year-old gentleman. He's in custody out in California, and we've just gotten news that he's actually hired an attorney. He's got Alan Jackson representing him. So knowing Alan Jackson and his reputation, I assume we'll be hearing more media reports about this. But what essentially happened was, Nick, the son, he's been suffering from mental illness. He's been suffering from different substance abuse since he was a teenager. And it sounds like his parents did everything that they could for many, many years. And recently he was at a holiday party, at Conan O'Brien's holiday party, and people saw him fighting with his parents. His mother, Michelle, had contacted the authorities and said that she was concerned about her son's mental health, about his well-being. And, later that evening, their daughter actually found both her parents dead in their Brentwood home. And if you all remember, Brentwood is where the O.J. Simpson tragedy happened. And this is definitely an area where, you sort of don't expect these types of things to happen. Killings are rare. It's about a mile from the home of where O.J. Simpson's wife, Nicole Brown Simpson, and her friend Ron Goldman were killed back in the 90s, in 1994. So, it's a surprising area. But just to bring everybody up to speed, there was this heated argument at Conan O'Brien's Christmas party very recently, last Saturday night. Rob and Nick got into a very loud argument. And we were talking about this before the show. Apparently, his parents brought him to this party to kind of keep an eye on him because they had been very worried about him. So we were, John and I were talking about, well, why was he at the party if he had been acting up and things like that? But, I guess his parents were trying to keep an eye on him. And I just can't help but think, what are parents supposed to do in this situation when their son is actively in this mental state, using drugs, things like that? How could they possibly have prevented some type of tragedy like this, Jonna?
Ashley, their son was 31 years old with a history of drug addiction, mental illness. Now, this is a tragedy. I don't care how you feel about Rob Reiner. This is an absolute tragedy. But when you have somebody with his means, somebody, who could, put him in the best rehab of all, get him a professional guardian, do all the things. It's no longer a parent's responsibility when you are dealing with another adult child. How do you get really tough in a situation like this? If you don't have Rob Reiner's means, you can't buy your child a house in another state to keep him away from you. You go to family court. You get an order of protection against your family member. You do things so that they can't come around you. But God darn, you're going to take a drug addict and take him to a Conan O'Brien Christmas party? That's like taking a diabetic into a candy store? What the frick are you thinking?
All right.
No, don't all right me. That makes no sense to me. He was
Jonna,
he's
listen,
an
What do you think,
adult.
Arthur?
Well,
You're trying to babysit him?
I have dealt very closely with families who have more significant means than than Rob Reiner, literally. And they have sent their kids away, and they come back, and they relapse. And as a parent, you want to protect your child. I don't think Rob Reiner, in his wildest dreams, imagined what took place, the horror that took place, what would have taken place. You're talking about Rob Reiner, who worked with his father, right? His father was as famous, if not more so, than he was. And you have that father and son team there. I just watched the Emmy Awards when Rob Reiner got the Emmy Award, and he made a very short speech, and his father comes on stage and gives him a kiss on the cheek, and in the microphone says, "That's from your mother." And his mother, by the way, is the woman in When Harry Met Sally, when Sally's having the orgasm and the older lady says, "I want what she's having." That's Rob Reiner's mom. He put in that movie that he directed. But Jonna, I don't know how you blame the parents on this one.
I'm not.
Well, you said they should go to family court. They should put him in an institution.
These
They
are just
did a lot. They
options.
did a lot of that. I mean, the kid has gotten a ton of therapy. His father made a movie with him, a B level, C level movie with him, just to try to create that father son relationship to see if it could pull it out of him. And obviously, sadly and tragically, it didn't work.
Yeah, it's so apparently he's been in his first rehab when he was 15, his 15th birthday. They put him in an initial rehab, and it says that he's been in something like 17 rehabs to follow. So I think the parents definitely were trying, but he's been homeless. Apparently he was homeless, and they were fighting over him going back into yet another rehab. So, they were trying to get him back into another rehab, but we've got a sod about how Rob is talking about how difficult it is to deal with Nick's addiction. I think that's sought too.
The parent your main job is to keep your child safe. So I would do anything. I felt at a loss. So I would do anything that, as we say in the film, anybody with a desk and a diploma, I would listen to them. And the whole idea of tough love and you have to be a certain way. And it's not my nature. It's not the way I am built, but I went and did that, and I think that, at the end of the day, I know my child better than an expert does, and I probably should have trusted my own instinct. And that's one of the things I did learn about the whole experience.
I think the bonding came not from the story itself, but from the fact that we were working on a movie together, and I could see him in I would think, in the form that he could express himself the best, which is making movies, because he has so much experience. 'Cause we didn't bond a lot as a kid. Like, he really liked baseball, I like basketball, and he could watch that with my brother, but baseball. But I just, when I saw him do that, and it was something that I'm interested in, I was like, wow, like, he really knows a lot, and like, it made me feel closer to him.
It's heartbreaking seeing them both on the screen, knowing what happened. Both Rob and his wife, Michelle, they died from stab wounds. And apparently when Nick was arrested, he went to a hotel. He went to a nearby hotel. He fled the murder scene, and he was found covered in blood. The people at the Santa Monica Hotel said that he checked in and they didn't notice anything. It was just hours after this bitter match had been witnessed. But they didn't see any drugs. They didn't see any anything where he had blood on him or anything like that. But then the hotel scene the shower was full of blood. There were blood stains on the bed. The windows had been covered with bed sheets. And
I don't
he's
think
reportedly
there's a lot of debate about who did this. I hesitate to say this, but it came from someone who I consider to be a reliable source. And what I was told was that Nick's sister, Rob Reiner's daughter, when
Romy.
yes, this was the scenario that was laid out to me yesterday, that the Reiners were supposed to get a massage, and that the massage therapist rang the bell and couldn't get in on Sunday afternoon, and called the daughter, Rami, and said, your parents aren't answering the door, and they set up this appointment. She went there, and supposedly the mom was still alive when they got there, and then she expired in the care of the ambulance workers. But there was an indication that she identified her son Nick as the person who did this, that Rob Reiner was deceased when his daughter got there, but that the mom was alive, and that she identified her son as the assailant. And again, I don't think there's going to be, I know what a great lawyer Yellen is, but I don't think there's going to be any issue about who did this. I think it's just going to be about how much time he's incarcerated for, if he ever sees the light of day.
Or whether he's got a mental defense.
Yeah, that's one of the things I wanted to talk about. I mean, I know in California, they don't have diminished capacity. And, for our viewers, diminished capacity is really where it's not a full insanity defense, but you're diminished. You have to have an intent to commit a crime. And if you were on drugs or alcohol, or you had a mental issue going on, you could have a diminished capacity to actually formulate that intent. But California doesn't have that. They've got insanity, but they don't have diminished capacity. So Jonna, if you were defending him, what would be your primary theory of the case?
Well, first of all, when you have a child who kills their parents in such an intimate way, and I don't mean that in any sexual way. I mean, he had to be up close and personal and stab them. We don't know how many stab wounds. We don't know whether it's a throat slash. We don't know what that is. And two parents, we were kind of talking off the air that where were they logistically? Because if you're killing both parents in such a hand-to-hand way where you have to be physically close to them to inflict death? Or is one parent in a separate room and the other parent doesn't hear what's going on and then rushes in? Were they both in bed sleeping? Were they in the same bed sleeping? We don't know exactly how he pulled this off, but he had to be in such a state of mind that he wasn't acting like he was not in the same state of mind as he was in the clip that we just showed, where he's having a conversation about a film he made with his father. Something else was really wrong. Also, we heard, and Arthur, maybe your source told you this, the party, I think, was Saturday night. There was some
Correct.
sort of verbal argument Saturday night that made other people at the party uncomfortable.
Correct.
When did they die? If the massage therapist comes over Sunday, were they killed Saturday night? Were they killed Sunday morning? We need answers to these questions.
Yeah.
But he's going to have some sort of mental defense.
The part that actually, from a very sentimental point of view is, the irony, if that's the right word, of Rob Reiner, whose father Carl and he were like this unbelievable relationship. And then you have Rob Reiner, who's trying, and you played that shot, he's trying to have this unbelievable relationship with his own son, who turns out to be his executioner. And, yesterday, I was doing my radio show. So I do this radio show from New York every night from 6 to 7. And obviously, this was on the front of my mind for many, many reasons. And I played the clip and all of the family. Rob Reiner is the clip of Rob Reiner saying, no matter how many movies I direct, no matter how many Academy Awards I win, he goes, if I won the Nobel Peace Prize, it would still say Meathead won the Nobel Peace Prize, because that's just how those of us of a certain age know him. And I played the clip of the final show where he is leaving. He and Gloria and little baby Joey are leaving to go to California. And the poignant moment between Mike Stivic and Archie Bunker, so Rob Reiner and Carol O'Connor, and where Mike Stivic is really manning up and saying, I know we always didn't get along, but we did have some good times, and I'm going to miss you. And Arch, I love you. And he hugged him, and Archie doesn't know what to do, and eventually puts his hand on the back and he says, you just take care of my babies. And he said, you'll never have to worry about that. I mean, what a tear-jerking thing. I broke down on the radio just listening to it and processing it, and especially after the weekend with the Brown case that we just discussed and Bondi Beach in Australia. And,
Well, Arthur, you have such a wonderful relationship with your own father.
I do.
Right?
And all of the
works with
family,
you.
thank you for acknowledging that, John. And of course, I followed in my father's footsteps the way Rob Reiner followed in his father's footsteps. And All in the Family is something my dad and I really bonded over, because it's such a timeless show. But, when you see the two protagonists of a show that was the #1 show in America for 5 years, and it aired for 8 or 9, and here they are finally hugging it out. And you think about what's going on in the world, and we need some more of that hugging it out on all levels. Obviously, families that are torn apart by this, obviously the political horrors that took place in Brown, because it seems like that was a politically motivated thing. The anti-Semitism in Australia, it's that moment between Rob Reiner and Carol O'Connor. We need to capture that love and affection, even though it was a little reluctant on Archie's part. He then accepted it. We need some more of that in the world.
That really, I was thinking about this earlier, and that kind of ties into it with Marsy's Law. And I don't know if our viewers know, Marsy's Law is really the crime victims' Bill of Rights. And when I think about these intimate family killings, what would the parents want? Because what Marsy's Law says is that if you're a crime victim, you have a right to a say in what happens in a case. And, I hear that Nick has hired Alan Jackson. I can't help but think there was a family member involved in facilitating that. You've got a sister still alive. You've got family members still alive. What are they going to want to see happen in this case? And how do they navigate that? You've got, think about his sister. His sister, it's the brother. You killed the parents. Does she want, what is justice for her? And I think that's a really complicated question in these types of cases. And that's one of the reasons that Marsy's Law was enacted. And it actually came out of California. Marsy's Law, so that they could have a say or is society the one that's going to have a say? What happens in the justice system? Do we want to prosecute him to the fullest extent of the law, or are we going to give the family a say? I mean, that's, I think, the big question, because it sounds like from your memories, Arthur, that Rob loved his son. I mean, obviously loved his son. And so I can't help but think maybe he wouldn't want him prosecuted to the fullest extent. Maybe he would want him to get some treatment if that's possible. I don't know.
It's also Tracy, who Rob Reiner adopted from his previous marriage. So, there are a lot of family members here, and look, and you said at this time of the year as well, Ashley, it's like, it tears your heart, your heartstrings. It tears at your heartstrings.
Right.
And what do you say? Like, oh yeah, do me a favor. I lost my mother and father, and let's make sure I never see my brother again as well. Like,
Right.
it's a hard thing to say.
You guys have bigger hearts than me, because if a family member killed my parents, I'd want revenge. I wouldn't even want justice. I would want revenge, and nothing would take me off that point. So I don't know.
But I think if you saw, like, if you'd grown up with him and you saw the suffering, I mean, we know most people who are using drugs are self-medicating. So, you can kind of jump to that conclusion that he's probably self-medicating for something going on. I think it would be hard to see that and then know that this is not who he is every day and still want him locked up. And I mean, unfortunately, our system doesn't really have a good solution. We don't have any mental health options. We have jail or not jail. There's not any good options we've got.
Folks should know when people are like, oh, is he going to get the, I'm speaking in generalities, but is he going to get the insanity defense? Is he going to get off and get the insanity defense? Statistically speaking, when you get found not guilty by reason of mental disease or defect, you wind up being incarcerated longer than if you get sentenced to prison and you're eligible for parole in a certain amount of time, because there are doctors that have to approve you going back out into society, and they are very reluctant to do so, because if they allow you to go back out into society and you commit another horrendous crime, they're on the cover of the newspaper. It's on their conscience. So it's not like, any kind of insanity defense and that's successful is some sort of, get out of jail free card.
Right. And when you have, drug abuse, it really gets complicated. And I know whenever I've had clients evaluated, most of the doctors say, well, I don't know where the drugs stopped and the mental defect, as they call it, began. Was it the drugs? Was it what's going on organically? Which one was it? And I know that's, California, that's one of the issues why they got rid of that, why they got rid of diminished capacity. So it's a sad situation, but we'll definitely be watching it. Next, we'll share what led to a college football coach's firing and his bizarre criminal behavior. And a reminder, we want to hear from you. Email your comments and story suggestions and questions to MKTrueCrime@devilmaycaremedia.com. We'll be right back.
The holidays are always full of surprises, and here's one. When it comes to religious freedom, you might be surprised to learn which states rank low on the Religious Liberty in the States Index. The First Liberty Institute, the nation's leading law firm protecting religious freedom, just released this index, and it ranks all 50 states on how well they protect your right to live out your faith. The results? Full of surprises. If you have not heard of First Liberty, they're different. They've been on the front lines defending religious freedom for nearly 30 years. When your faith comes under attack, they are first in the fight, and they do it without ever sending their clients a bill. That's right, they don't charge a dime. And they have a win rate of over 90% on their cases, including a 9-0 record at the U.S. Supreme Court. This Religious Liberty in the States Index is an independent, peer-reviewed study that gives you the real picture of religious liberty across America. Want to see where your state ranks? Get your free copy today at firstliberty.org/Megan. That's firstliberty.org/MEGYN.
Welcome back to MK True Crime. A verdict was delivered in the Brian Walsh murder trial on Monday. We'll bring you the updates. But first, we have to talk about Sharon Moore. Sharon is a now fired University of Michigan football coach. He was fired for an inappropriate relationship with a staff member. But what happened next is what's interesting. Shortly after he was fired, Moore is accused of forcibly entering the apartment of his affair partner, when he then threatened to harm himself with butter knives and scissors. He faces third-degree felony home invasion, misdemeanor stalking, and misdemeanor breaking and entering. So, what do we think about this? I also read something, and I know, John, we were talking about this off air a little bit, that his wife, which, when you hear the story of him, you think, oh, wait, a wife? That his wife was also very worried about his mental health. And I'm thinking to myself, I would be worried about his actual physical health if I was his wife.
No, he should be worried about his actual physical health
Yeah.
from his wife. Yeah,
Yeah,
you
so
know,
Lorena Bobbitt style. Is that what you guys going? You guys going Lorena,
I
full on
mean,
Lorena
I
Bobbitt? Well,
don't
John
know.
wants revenge on everyone, so who knows?
no,
It's all up for grabs.
not on everyone, but can I this guy, I got nothing good to say about this guy. Starting with the fact that he's a cheater, obviously, okay? Second, you break up with your subordinate and then you act like some wimp and you
Right.
go all crazy and you're going to try to kill yourself with butter knives and what else, popsicle sticks, and then you got to go to it. Like, the good news for him, this criminal case will probably be resolved for a slap on the wrist, because he's just acting like a jilted lover,
Totally.
pansy ass wimp of a guy, which is such a turnoff as it is. But get a life, buddy. Come on, find your balls. Where
know.
are his balls?
So
Oh,
he's a
ding, ding,
football
ding.
coach too.
Well, so here's the deal. The pressure of his job is enormous. I mean, I know he's getting paid an
What?
enormous salary.
It was like a
No,
two. How much was his? Does anybody know his contract price? Because I heard it was
Ooh.
in the millions.
yeah, well, I think it was
I'm
6
sure.
million. I
Yeah.
think it was 6 million a year, something like that for 3 years. But you don't understand these, well, John, where you and I live, it's not a college atmosphere.
I was
Ashley
about to
lives-
say it's these
Ashley
are
lives in a
fighting words.
college
We
atmosphere.
can people. I mean, University of
Right.
Florida. It's like we just fired our coach a month ago because he wasn't
Yeah,
winning. There's a lot of pressure.
It's all they live for. We have
Mm-hmm.
professional teams in a lot of parts. They don't, and even their professional teams are not the New York Yankees. And no disrespect to anyone, but they are the greatest. They've won more world championships than anybody.
Let's go
So
Mets.
and these Michigan people are
Yeah.
crazy. I have a lawyer who
Oh,
works
yeah.
with me. All he does is wear a Michigan hat every day, all day, 24, 365. He's wearing a Michigan hat. So there's that part of the mental breakdown that he must have had somewhere along the line, feeling that pressure. And then he fell in love and he's acting like an absolute mope. But John, I don't know about that jurisdiction, but I will tell you here in the city of New York, they're taking stalking really seriously. It's not just a walk in the park anymore because they're looking at it as the precursor to the violence. So the Brown case, right, that we're
Arthur.
talking about, you see that guy stalking outside, walking back and forth. That's the precursor to the violence. So it's no longer you go in and you get an adjournment and contemplation of dismissal, and as long as you don't get in trouble for 6 months, it's gone. They usually keep these cases going on, and they want to monitor you, and they want to make sure you're not doing anything else. So and you guys know a case of this magnitude in the media, they're not just going to say, okay, thanks a lot. I mean, they published that picture of the guy in handcuffs in a little cage or wherever he's in. But I don't see this case disappearing
With his,
so quickly without a big mental health component to it.
no,
Oh, yeah. Always
he
with
had
stalking.
minor bail. No, he's just acting like a jilt. He's acting like a teenager,
Yeah.
right? Who just who wanted to go to prom, and the chick he wanted to take went with somebody else. Like, grow the up.
And I can't help but wonder if both of them, I mean, he gets fired, she doesn't get fired. And I know, Jonna, you'll probably argue with me on this, but it doesn't make sense. Why is she not getting fired also? So she got, and this statistic really incensed me. So she's working there. They start this relationship. And then all of a sudden, she gets a 55% salary bump with her annual pay jumping from $58,000 to $90,000 last year. So she is enjoying the benefits of this relationship. She breaks up with him, which is obviously she's allowed to do, and she shouldn't have become a crime victim because of that. So I'm certainly not saying that. But only he's fired. She's not. And what did the university say? Let's see. The university said that it was because he was in a position of power. So he was her supervisor. And so that's why he was canned, but she wasn't. But both of them lied about their relationship. And that's what really violated the university policy. So why is she not out too?
Because here's what's going to come next. She's going to file her sex harassment lawsuit, and she's going to make millions and millions and millions from the college. That's what she's going to do. And they didn't fire her because they're afraid to fire her, because that's coming next. Arthur, back me up here.
Now, I would put it this way. A lot of lawyers were involved in making that decision. I think John is probably right. I think they're probably protecting their proverbial backside from a lawsuit here. And, that the university should have protected her from the coach, and now her name is out there and it's destroyed, and it's going to affect her finances for the the next 75 years of her life expectancy. So yeah, they will be there ostensibly will be a lawsuit,
It's your
and I
golden
guess
ticket.
they said firing her will only make it worse. So I mean, they probably seriously checked in with their insurance company. What do you want us to do? Do you want us to keep her? You want us to fire her? But is it really that fair? I mean, it does take two to tango.
Takes
And
two to tango. I mean,
Mhm.
yeah, that's the thing. And so she's just a little bit more about her. So her name is Paige Shiver, we believe. She's a 32-year-old, and she, like I said, had been recently promoted. But she started working there in 2022, had worked her way up. She was actually his assistant, so his personal assistant, and then they had an intimate relationship. And it sounds like she dumped him, and there's a lot of texts going back and forth. And he just lost his marbles, as you said. So I think you both are right. I think we're going to see a lawsuit, and we're going to have a lot more to talk about this. There were a lot of rumors about it, apparently, about his extracurricular activities. It sounds like he was just so mad in love that he couldn't even think straight.
It
I mean,
was an
his life
open
is ruined as
secret,
well. I mean,
Ashley.
where is she going to go? Where's he going now? It used to be when we were kids, right? It was today's newspaper is tomorrow's fish wrappers.
Right.
But
Right.
that's not, unless you were going to go to the library and go on microfiche. Remember what that was? And you'd have to go look at
Oh my
old
God. Yes,
newspapers.
I
Stop
actually
it.
do. We're showing our
Right.
ages.
I
But
know.
Knock it off.
but now if our famous coach literally goes to Home Depot to go get a job, they're gonna put his name in as they always do, just into the regular machine, into the Google, and this will come up and they'll be like, "Oh, we're sorry, sir, we can't
I
have
know.
someone with your mental instability here." So he has major problems going forward, unless there's someone out there, a former coach of his, or who's just gonna quietly take them under their wing, and say, "Okay, we're gonna quietly employ you," because he's a young man.
Right.
And I don't know,
Mhm.
you get those contracts. Trust me, I've represented these types of people on the civil side, and you think it's a gravy train that goes on and on and on, and you forget to save for a rainy day. Well, for my man, it's not raining, it's not pouring, it's a hurricane, a tornado, and the perfect storm all together. And God knows what his life is like at home, because if he's married to Jonas Spilborn, Lorena Bobbitt's in the room.
I
We
would
need to
love.
see the text. We need to
Oh
see
my
the
God, can you
text, you
imagine?
guys.
I know, but I'd love to see Arthur cross-examine this lady. If you defended him, Arthur, and you've got her on the stand, you've got Paige on the stand, what would you like to ask her?
Well, I mean, again, what Jonna's point is, she's charged with stalking. So it probably has a lot less to do with her than him. Like, where are you? Why are you there? What reason do you have to be there? Of
Right.
course, you try to make her look like, look, this was the two of you together. It was a real relationship. You loved him. He loved you. You guys, had a very tumultuous but loving and caring love affair, right?
Right.
Isn't it fair to characterize it as a love affair? And she's never, as far as we know, right this second, she's not charging him with any type of sexual assault or anything like that.
No.
And just build it up to, like, look, this is a boyfriend, girlfriend. Like Jonna said, he's acting like a 15-year-old. Not too many deaths are caused with a butter knife
Right.
that
I
I
know.
know
A
of.
butter knife. I was like, come on, you're a football coach. Like a butter
Yeah.
knife? Really? Come on.
So, but look, we will see again where this winds up. But it's another one. This girl's name, I'm talking about the coach trying to get a job.
Yeah.
This young lady, right?
Oh, I know.
She's, in the
She won't need
under
one.
the book of Monica Lewinsky's of the world,
She
right?
won't
And
need
all
one.
the names, right?
Yeah.
Thank you.
She'll
She's
get
gonna
her
have a
millions.
lawsuit. She
She'll
doesn't need
make
one.
purses. But here's my prediction. I'm gonna go on record with the prediction. Here's what happened when we get the text messages. She said to him, "This is just my prediction. Leave your wife, or I'm leaving you." And then he went, "Ooh, can't do that because then I can't have my cake and eat it too. I can't do
Yeah.
that. Can't do that." And then he got crazy, and then she called the police, and that's why we are here. And again, he needs to find his balls. That's all
Yeah.
I'm gonna say.
Or she gets her raise and then she says, see ya. We'll see.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Hopefully we'll get those texts soon. Hopefully we'll get those.
the thing is this. I have no problem telling you, like, I met my wife at work. Like, people
Right.
have these romances at work, at the office. That's nothing new. As a matter of fact, there was an article very recently, like this weekend, it may have been in the New York Times, talking about how, and John's going to love the second piece, how the two things that are ruining young people: remote work. So you're
Yeah.
sitting home, not meeting with everyone. And you ready,
Mhm.
Jonna?
Yep.
Alcohol abstinence. All
Yes.
these young 20 years
What
old,
is
I'm
that?
not drinking.
Oh, they
Yeah,
don't
you're
drink.
right.
They
Exactly.
don't
I don't
drink.
drink. I don't drink. I don't drink. And the guy he was, I think one person wrote an article. One I saw a feed somewhere online saying like alcohol, like, lets you kind of say, "Hey, how you doing?
The
My name
birth
is
rate's going to go
Arthur.
down.
If
Birth
you
rate's
tell me
going
your
down.
name, I'll buy you a drink. What do you want to do? Da, da, da.
These
Oh, you
are
like ice
these are
skating? I like
correlated.
ice skating too.
These are correlated. They're not in person. They're not drinking, and the birth rate's going down. It is definitely correlated.
We're going to go extinct thanks to Gen
Well,
Z.
there is a part of us, especially in my hometown in Italy, they're having like one kid a family, and
yeah.
if you extrapolate it out through an actuary, like Italy as we know it'll be gone in not that long from now because they're just not procreating, and they are drinking allegedly.
Well, at the time of this filming, Brian Walsh has been convicted but not sentenced. But tomorrow, when this is airing, he will be sentenced. So just to catch everyone up quickly, a jury found him guilty of killing and dismembering his wife. But this is what was kind of crazy to me. So he actually pled guilty to improperly disposing of her body and lying to the police, but he goes to trial on the murder. Not exactly a case I would want to be arguing to a jury. My client just admitted to lying to the police and getting rid of a body, but he didn't do it. Not a really fun position, but I thought it was interesting, and we can hear SOT 3 in just a minute, but I thought it was really, really interesting that the lawyer said that he disposed her body in a panic. It's like you could have come up with something better. So before we close out, can we listen to SOT 3 where the jury delivers the guilty verdict?
Mr. Foreperson, in the matter of the Commonwealth versus Brian Walsh, Norfolk Superior Court Criminal Indictment Number 2023-0091, as to count 1, wherein the defendant Brian Walsh is charged with murder in the first degree, what say the jury? Is the defendant guilty or not guilty?
Guilty.
Guilty of what, sir?
Murder in the first degree.
Murder in the first degree, so say you, Mr. Foreperson.
I do.
Guilty of murder in the first degree, so say all deliberating jurors.
I do.
So I'd just like to say that is either the best moment in your career or the worst moment in your career.
Oh yeah.
But every time I listen to a jury verdict being rendered, I have PTSD, and I'm sure
Right
you
now
both
I
as
do
well.
too. My stomach is like turning.
How can you
like,
not?
Oh boy.
Right?
Oh my God. Yeah.
Not in this case. His defense attorney was not surprised. He had a legal theory that made absolutely no sense. Nobody is in shock here.
Nobody's shocked, but it's still
No, but it still
that
stinks.
moment.
But it still stinks. Even though you're like, I don't think I got a chance. There's always that part of your ego that you're like, well, maybe I get a hung jury, or maybe. Oh, Johnny, you gotta have hope. Johnny, you gotta have hope. Like
It took
today,
6 hours.
Today I hoped you were gonna wear glasses and I wasn't. And then I come on screen and I decide for the first time ever not to wear glasses. And there you go, ruining the whole glasses bit.
I think we do it to ourselves actually with the verdict. Like I will believe my argument and my client and my defense so much. Right. I mean, you literally, you're part of it. And then you're waiting for that verdict and you're like, did I mess with my mind? But anyway, I like to play the verdict.
Wait, let me say, can I just say one thing on that? The first big felony criminal trial that I lost, and there have been a few, but the very first one, I was upset over it, obviously, because I thought I had a good defense, the ego, all of it. And the judge looked at me after my client was sentenced to 15 years in prison. He looked at me and he said, counsel, you can't make chicken salad out of chicken shit. And that's
poop.
Sorry.
That's funny. That was actually one of my best compliments ever. I had a jury tell me that I was really good at making chicken scratch out of chicken shit. And I will never forget that.
It fits. It fits. That's our job.
Kind of like our job. We should put that on our websites. But
when we get merch, we'll put it on a T-shirt and a couple of mugs.
That'd be awesome. Yeah. All right. Well, we'll stay tuned. Next, we've got your questions and we've got our closing arguments. Stay tuned.
I want to tell you about Shen Yun, now celebrating its 20th anniversary. For 2 decades, audiences have seen something truly unique. Shen Yun has played top venues like Lincoln Center, the Kennedy Center, London's Coliseum, and the Sydney Opera House, and each season tours to over 200 cities worldwide. What is it? It's classical Chinese dance, a live orchestra, and animated backdrops bringing to life 5,000 years of traditional Chinese civilization, a culture the communist regime in China has tried to erase. You will see amazing dancers bringing to life myths and legends, heroic warriors, and heavenly realms, in gorgeous costumes that flow like silk with flips and spins that look effortless yet superhuman, all set to music that tugs at your heartstrings. Inspiring, uplifting. If you are looking for an unforgettable gift for your family, I really recommend you check it out. Visit shenyun, SHENYUN.com/Megan to waive ticketing fees when you order. That's shenyun.com/Megan.
Well, we'll get to your questions and our closing arguments, but first, did you know that you can listen to MK True Crime on the Megyn Kelly channel on SiriusXM? As part of Megyn's podcast playlist, MK True Crime will air Tuesday at 10 a.m. and Saturdays at 9 a.m. and 10 a.m. on SiriusXM channel 111. So we have a question from a listener named Selena. Selena asks, is there a past or present case you wish you could have served as counsel on? If so, which case and why? So let's see. I'll start with Arthur because I'm going to go ladies first on our rants. So.
Oh, yeah, you should because
Arthur
we
wants to
all
take
know-
a nap during mine.
Yeah, we all know what's coming there. So I'll go past and present. Past, the Casey Anthony trial. I think there was so many ins and outs and ups and downs and mysteries and I just think that was a mental exercise. And at the time I was one of the lead analysts on the Fox News channel, and everyone was just ripping Jose Baez apart. Oh, well, you're horrible. He doesn't know what he's doing. And I was saying, I don't know. It seems like he's doing okay to me, and I don't know what he knows, and he may be asking questions because he has information that we don't know about. And when that verdict came in and she was acquitted, I was like, and Jose and I are now friends. We were not friends before that, but we are now. In terms of present cases, and I was in the running for it. Maybe my fee was a little too high, but I would like to have handled, which is pending right now, President Trump's appeal, not his trial. I mean, I would have loved to have done his trial as well, but his appeal and his criminal conviction here in New York City. Because they basically made up a lot of laws. They created a lot of laws. They went after him for things that never existed before, that they've never prosecuted before. They were very, very, very creative in their in their legal analysis and their legal strategy. And I was able to speak to the president about it, about representing him. He happened to go with a tiny little firm called Sullivan and Cromwell. For those of you who don't know, it's one of the biggest firms in the United States of America. But there are such real rich legal issues there that need to be challenged. And the almost all Democratic appellate division and Court of Appeals, those are the two appellate courts in New York State. I want to see them doing the right thing here and saying, we don't care that there was a target on his back. The law is the law, no matter who you are. If you're Harvey Weinstein or Donald Trump, and we're going to adhere the law equally to everybody.
What about you, John?
I have to say, I would have loved to represent Donald Trump in any of his trials, but especially the one that was in Manhattan Criminal Court, for sure, for all the same. Like, that was just totally made up. And I would have loved to have mopped the floor with all of the state's witnesses in that one, Michael Cohen and everybody else, because that just gives me sheer pleasure. I once had a witness on the stand that I cross-examined, who actually was so nervous and upset by it that she threw up. And to me, that was like winning an award. And then the second one I think I would have done is the Johnny Depp case. Man, that was a fun.
Yes. Oh my God. Yes.
That wasn't even criminal.
I'm with you on that. I definitely think the Johnny Depp case, definitely. And I love the appeal too. I just like to cross-examine so much. So, anything where I get to cross-examine people, that's my favorite thing.
Yeah.
Sure, your husband's thrilled about that. I'm sure.
Yeah.
It makes
he
his
loves
day
it
every single day. Yeah.
Where have you been?
He loves it. He loves it. My kids love it. I mean, it's great. It's it's the life you live with me. If you live with me, you get cross-examined. My kids and my dogs get cross-examined. Why did you pee in the wrong place? Yeah. No, both of those are great cases. Definitely. So We're going to do ladies first with our rants. Jonna, you get to go first.
All right, so we're going to do my rant. This is where Arthur checks out because my rants, which are only supposed to be a minute long, turn out to be like 3 or 4. Today it might be closer to 6 or 7, but this is
Uh-oh.
relevant. Oh yeah, Arthur.
6,
so go ahead.
7. Wait, 6, 7. Have you heard
6,
that yet?
7.
Go 6, 7.
Go check your email. But this is relevant to something that our own Megyn Kelly had actually broke. And a couple of weeks ago, our own Megyn Kelly broke a story involving NYU student Amelia Lewis, who was randomly attacked by a career pervert while walking to class in broad daylight. The video of the assault, which has since gone viral, was a crucial piece of evidence that allowed authorities to quickly ascertain this douchebag's identity and apprehend him before he could attack again. Kudos to Amelia and her friend Summer, who sadly is also an assault victim, for having the presence of mind to get their hands on the video and the commitment to do society a favor by getting this guy off the street. This is indeed half the battle. I want to discuss the other half, something that doesn't get talked about enough, but is as important as seeking justice in a court of law, and that is seeking justice within ourselves. A quick story. When I was about Amelia's age, I too was randomly attacked in public by 2 guys with a gun. I remember hearing quick footsteps closely behind me, and when I turned to see what the hubbub was about, I heard a male voice say words to the effect, quote, "We got you, bitch." And within a half a second, I was nose to nose with a gun. They say you never know what you'll do under the stress of a situation like that until it happens. Will you fight, flee, or freeze, as these seem to be the 3 choices for which our brains are hardwired. In my case, though, I did something a little different. I looked at the man with the gun in my face and exclaimed, "What the fuck do you think you're doing?" At that point, a second attacker wearing a big puffer jacket grabbed me from behind in what I described to police as a bear hug, but was in truth a chokehold. The good news is they didn't kill me. The bad news is they didn't just steal my purse. They stole my peace of mind, my sense of security, and a smidge of my dignity too. I don't care how tough you are. When you are physically assaulted by another human being, even if your skin is unbroken, you will suffer an invisible wound that will change you. For better or worse is up to you. I handled getting assaulted at gunpoint with all the self-care one would employ after getting a flat tire. Looking back, that was a mistake. You simply cannot survive something like that and act as if you stubbed a toe. Like, how was my day? Well, the cute guy in accounting asked me out. I got a promotion, stepped off the train, and was attacked by 2 guys with a gun, and I'm really looking forward to the weekend. Please pass the salt. If you want that which doesn't kill you, literally, to truly make you stronger, you must heal the invisible wounds that will, 100%, accompany an event as world-rocking as being physically assaulted. No judge or DA can do that for you. You need to do that shit yourself, or these unresolved emotions will crash your party in weird ways at some point down life's road. Don't believe me? Then prepare to be karate chopped if you happen to walk a little too closely behind me. Releasing my hypervigilance as if it's a superpower is my way of making up for not being vigilant enough on that fateful Monday in February 47 years ago. Obviously, I still have work to do. To Amelia and Summer and everyone else who has been, or unfortunately will be, a victim of a violent attack, know this. The wounds that change you most are the ones that do not bleed. Please do not ignore them. You guys still awake?
That was
Great,
very
Jonna.
lighthearted and uplifting.
Merry Christmas. Merry
yeah,
Christmas. I bet you're
ho, ho.
great to go after that, Arthur.
No, well, that was actually excellent, John.
That
Thank you.
And I did not fall asleep. I listened intently, and it ties in. You know, you have these beautiful scripted closing arguments. My closing arguments are usually done based off of an outline with Sharpie on a piece of paper.
Napkin.
Tying in a little bit to what you're saying, I'm just gonna go back to the Rob Reiner thing and his son and like what caused this. There's two things really. It seems like it's a combination of mental illness and drug abuse.